Here to send us off in style, please welcome to the stage, Courtney Krus.
Hey, all right! Here we are, the final session at NIO Summit, and I am so privileged to get to do this. To bring us home, or what did seniors say? Bring up the rear? Okay, well, we'll just leave that there. And I'm here to talk about recurring giving, but before we get going, there's some things I want to tell you a little bit about myself, maybe. Some of you know this, most of you don't, but a little known fact, I am a farm girl. I know. Wow, farm girls in the house. I may not look like a farm girl today or really any other day, but I've got proof. This is me and my brother and my sister and my pet cow, Moses. Oh, wow, cow lovers in the audience. So Moses was so sweet. And that's me feeding Moses a bottle. And I loved growing up on the farm. It was beautiful. In fact, still to this day, our farm is my absolute favorite place on the entire planet. It is beautiful. It's actually kind of magical. It's a refuge, and it's really special. Yes, of course it's special to me because it's my family's farm, but also because my great-grandfather established this farm in the 30s. And my mom and dad still live here today. In fact, my dad is in his 48th year of farming. In fact, right now, yeah, isn't that great? He's in harvest right now, and he actually farms alone now that my grandfather has passed away. But he continues to farm and farm this incredible livelihood that was established so many years ago. Now, our farm has many picturesque views on it, but probably my favorite and most iconic is that big red barn. We're actually kind of known for it in the area because it's so big and so bright, and you better believe Mom and Dad keep it bright because they're so dang proud of it. And we've had to kind of rebuild buildings throughout the year because of the wear and tear. But man, the one that stood the test of time was the barn. And this is one of the original photos of our farmstead from the 30s. And you can see the barn on the right-hand side. And what's so special about this barn, besides how beautiful it is, iconic it was built by our neighbors. It was built by our community, people coming together for a common purpose to build something that would improve the lives of families, of my family. But this is what they did back then, these barn raisings. I'm sure we're all familiar with that phrase. We probably even use it from time to time, but have we actually given it a lot of thought of the significance of that work? This power of coming together as community, the power of communal action. And when I think about it, it's really a lot like the work we do each and every day as fundraisers. A community coming together with a common purpose, a common goal to make things better. And it's a lot like fundraising in many ways. A large amount of work went into the barn raising. You've got lumber and hardware and kind of paving the ground for the barn to be built. And you're bringing together all kinds of people from different backgrounds and talents and just trying to figure out how to get the work done. And should I mention that these people didn't get paid, which is a lot like nonprofit space, maybe a little bit? But their conditions changed year in, year out. Weather was, bad and good. The cost of supplies continued to increase. Their patience was tried, and they had to constantly adapt to finish the work. Now think about our space, how dramatically different and how conditions continue to change the work that we do every single day. Even just look at some trends in giving. Just even back in 1983, so much of giving was done by individuals. Very little was done by foundations. Now, fast forward 40 years, even just to last year, the amount of individual giving has declined by 18%. This radical change impacts how we fundraise and how we have to operate. Additionally, as we work tirelessly day in, day out, trying to optimize and make improvements and try and figure out like which way the wind is blowing today. How are my donors going to respond? What's going on in the economy around us impacting our work? And even just in the last year, man, acquisition is expensive. Thank you, AI. Acquisition costs are up 25% just in the last year alone. And that trend is not just unique to this past year. Every single year, the cost has continued to come up. And we have to continue to optimize and figure out, okay, how do we still be effective in this space for acquisition while everything is against us? And we've heard a lot about retention over the last few days. Well, retention sucks. In fact, it's down by 8% in the last year alone. And even with all of the incredible help and insight and wisdom and conversations that we're having throughout these last 2 days, fundraising can be frustrating. In fact, you can feel stuck and maybe even start to ask yourself, like, why am I in this space? Why am I in this space? This is the worst, right? Do you feel like that some days? You're like, I quit. I'd rather go stock shelves at H-E-B. But there's hope, my friends. There's hope in this very thing that keeps me and you, really everyone in this room, maybe continuing to move forward. The same hope that existed when communities came together to build barns. And it is this: people are generous and want to be a part of something bigger. Do we believe that? Because lots of studies are being done all over the place, and it goes against all these decades of research saying that humans are selfish. I have a teenager, I understand. But the truth is, generosity is part of each of us. We see this in various ways. There's also studies that show children want to help. Do you remember Tim's session yesterday where he showed that video of the children choosing to help the person or the stuffed bunny? That's in their DNA, to help, to be a part of something for good. And then on the other side, you've got older adults. There's studies around if they volunteer, it's proven that they have greater quality of life and a longer life. That's powerful. Just by doing good, by being generous. And of course, there's so much science and data around that topic because generosity is contagious. It's rewarding because it allows people, human beings, to be a part of something bigger than themselves. This has been at the very foundation of communities for centuries. So how do we as fundraisers and marketers actually come alongside these people who are generous and want to be part of something bigger? Well, it's really, really simple. We help them. We have to help them. We should want to help them. And while we have many tools to create change in our communities and our world, one of the most single greatest tool that we all have is this idea that we can help people become ongoing supporters of the passions and work that aligns with who they are and the beliefs that they hold. This is simply done through recurring giving. It's like, we all know about recurring giving, but I think we have this idea of what it is, what it should be, maybe what others are doing, and you want to be a part of that too. But I think we've actually lost sight on what it's really all about. Recurring giving is about empowering people, empowering them to be generous, empowering them to be part of something bigger. And of course, it provides sustainability for us as organizations, but the sole purpose is the empowerment of people. So why is this so critical? Well, let's just take a look at the data, right? You've seen so much data over the last few days. We've got to show you what's going on in the recurring donor space. 20% of nonprofit fundraising programs is comprised of recurring giving. Now, yes, some organizations are maybe in like 60 to 70%, others are in like the 2%, but our benchmark that we're seeing is about 20%. But this continues to rise and rise and rise every single year. In fact, it's up about 25% in the last year alone. So it's not just like this trendy topic that you see on LinkedIn and here within this space. Like, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of momentum happening. And the reason for it is simple things like this. Retention rate of recurring is 101% higher than a one-time donor. And this is true at every life cycle of a donor's journey with us. So their second year of giving with us, 3 or more years in their key multi-year, and then even as a reactivated lapsed donor, the recurring donor retention is 142% higher than a one-time donor. It's remarkable. But it's not just about retention. Take a look at their value. A recurring donor is worth in their first year 77% more. And while it's clear that recurring donors retain at such a higher rate, they're so much more valuable, what does it look like with their likelihood to upgrade to mid and major? This is one of the biggest data points I've seen that kind of blows me away. The likelihood for a one-time donor to upgrade to a mid and major is 0.13%. For a recurring donor, it's 1.6. You might be looking at this and be like, well, that's a small percentage. But look at the difference. 1,100% more likely to upgrade to a mid and major donor for your programs by getting them in a recurring relationship, ongoing support for the mission that they align with. Additionally, recurring donors are worth 9 times more in their lifetime. This is bonkers. And we know that recurring donors also have the highest likelihood to leave you legacy gifts, which is going to be the biggest windfall for your organization in the future. So then why? Like, why are not more nonprofits actually embracing this strategy and prioritizing recurring? If we have all of this data, all of this facts, we know all of this knowledge, and yet we feel stuck. Well, I went to LinkedIn to see what people thought, because that's where every great researcher goes nowadays. And this is what people said. Well, they don't have the right tools or technology. Some said, well, I don't have a special membership program that people can give to. There's a fear of change, leadership, maybe not having a point person who is accountable for that part of their program. And many, many comments on, it just is really complicated. Do y'all feel these things? Raise your hand if you can resonate at least with one of those things. See, I really think, though, it's not complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think that we're actually making it more complicated than it is. And I want to help you. I want to help you with just a simple framework around this. Acquisition, upgrade, retention. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to walk you through some things to think about as you build and optimize your programs. So the first one is around acquisition. Well, the very first thing you need to understand in acquisition is at a foundational level, is the why. And that's the value proposition. Value proposition does this. It answers this one question. If I am your ideal donor, why should I give to you rather than some other organization or not at all? Now, there's a lot that we could dissect within this question, but I want you to pay attention to the I in this statement. The I in this statement is not you, not me. It's who? Your donor. Because when you and I start to answer it, I'm like, that's my mission statement. I have an incentive for them. No, they've got to answer it from their perspective. But for recurring giving, we can't just stop here at asking this question. We've actually got to change it a little bit to say this. If I am your ideal donor, why should I give a recurring gift rather than a one-time gift to you rather than some other organization or not at all? You see, the only difference is that we have to focus on the why around recurring. It's still about the donor. This why still needs to be answered in the mind of your donor. So how do we actually know if my value proposition is strong? Where do I begin? How do I start? What's the messaging I should use? Well, let's ask our donors. And how do we do that? Where do we begin? Of testing. Take a look at this experiment that we ran with a PBS station in Dallas. As a donation form, you can see on the left, it says donate to KERA. On the right, they started to adjust some messaging. Power the programs you love. And then went into copy around why you should give a recurring gift. They saw an increase in average gift and an increase in recurring donors. Why? Because we increased the clarity of our message, the appeal of our messaging. Donate to KERA, as a donor, I'm like, okay, you want me to do that all the time. But power the programs I love? Absolutely. Or take a look at this advertisement. It's a Facebook ad for a monthly giving campaign. And on the left it says, give now, become a monthly donor. On the right, it says, join now, join the Liberty and Learning Society. They saw a 41% increase in clicks from the one on the right. Why? Well, the donors literally told us. What they're telling us here is, I don't want to give now. I don't want to become a monthly donor. Those are things that who wants to happen? Us. Join now, become part of the society, become this exclusive member. That's what they want to be a part of. Again, they want to be part of something bigger, something that can help them impact the world for better. And so that's why value proposition can't be declared. We cannot just put a stake in the ground and say, this is what it is, this is who we are, this is why you should give to us. No, the donor's going to say, hey, I want to join what you're doing. Hey, the thing, that impact you're having over here, put my name on that. So value proposition is the foundation for acquisition. But we've also got to understand what the experience is like for someone to become a recurring donor. You've heard a lot about this. They keep asking you these questions of like, when's the last time you made a gift to your organization? And I've seen hands go up. In fact, in my workshop on Tuesday, we forced everyone to make a donation to their organization. But I'm curious, how many of you have made a recurring gift to your organization? Maybe a dozen? Maybe? So friends, if I haven't actually tried to understand the experience of what they're going through, how am I going to help them? And the best place to start is on your website. Really, really, really simple. A typical home page. You can see up in the upper right-hand corner, you've got a big donate button. The first question you should be asking around recurring donor acquisition is, do I have a button that is visible and is clear in language? And the reason for that is this. We tested this with an organization. It says donate on top. The next one, we just put a purple box around it. It looks like a button, it's just color. That's all it is. And then we tested another version where it says support DTS. Look what happens just by making it look like a visual button. 190% increase in donor conversion. Even just by having the button look, even though the language didn't do as well as just donate, improves the amount of people going to your donation page and making a gift. But what if we went a step further? What if we added a monthly button, a recurring gift option to the top of our navigation? Look what happened with this organization. They had donate, and they simply just added donate and give monthly. 75% increase in revenue. That's amazing. Just by giving them the option to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to be a part of that. And there's dozens, literally dozens of experiments that we could propose for you to look at, to analyze, even just on your homepage and your navigation. And I'll have a resource for you in a moment, but there's so much to test even just in that simple space. If we go to the donation page, there's even more testing. Take a look at this. Do you have a recurring gift option even on your donation form? How is it being presented? Is it buttons or tabs, a checked box? Is it standalone? So many different ways that you can present it. This organization tested it here. One option was no recurring, another one had radio buttons, and the last option was just one checkbox that said, make this gift recurring. They saw a 100% increase in donations. And I bet a lot of you don't even have a recurring option on your giving form. Look at the power of just simply giving it as an option. People are ready. They're actually waiting to become ongoing supporters of your organization. Or this experiment. This is one of my favorite experiments. It's not sexy at all. It uses privacy language, but it's really cool. On the bottom, all we did was we take data and privacy seriously. Your payment information is secure and will only be used to process your gift. They saw an 11% increase in donations. This organization gets a lot of monthly gifts. This 11% was 6 figures in revenue. Why? If I'm giving you my credit card and you're going to charge it every single month, I have a heightened sense of anxiety with giving you my credit card information. And so this is just like 4 of about 30 experiments that I've outlined for you to at least just start understanding what the experience is like for your donors to make a recurring gift. You can download it here at the QR code. I'll get you the slides as well afterwards. But this is the first place to start. All right, so that's acquisition. Let's dive into upgrade. Oh, upgrade, so many things here. Really basic, foundational things. Because first, the most fundamental building block that we can put in place is to thank them. I know that we've probably just like beat that to death. Like it's just the big thing that we keep saying is thank your donors right away. And I say this often, I'm like, hey, if you're not ready to thank, you're not ready to ask. And I know this is true. Nathan showed this data about how many of us are not thanking. 27% of organizations didn't send a receipt. And the research in that study continued to emphasize the importance of cultivation and loving our donors and stewarding them. And that's why a new donor onboarding series is so critical. This series that triggers as soon as a donor makes their one-time gift, because it gains trust. It fosters that relationship with our donors so that you can ask for a subsequent donation. Also, in this research study, there's huge opportunity to ask for a monthly gift. We found that only 12% of nonprofits were actually asking for a recurring gift in the first 90 days after the initial one time. That's a huge opportunity for us. I look at these stats not to say, womp womp, like that's sad, that's bad, we're doing a bad job. No, like, yo, look at this. That's so much opportunity to stick out amongst the crowd. Because we also have data that shows that a donor is most likely to upgrade, convert to recurring donor within that 90-day window. Let's ask them. And there's so much data around this. Nathan even showed you this study. I'm going to go one step further. A new donor in their first year of giving, their likelihood to retain is at 21% if they give one gift. If they give two in their first year of giving, it's 45%. Look what happens if they become a recurring donor. 85% likely to retain into their second year. That is a 304% increase in retention. What? Huge opportunity. And just as you should go through this experience of making a gift as a recurring donor, you should also understand what the experience is like after you make a gift. It's just a simple checklist of looking at, hey, are you sending a receipt within 15 minutes? Are you thanking your donors within 48 hours? Are you cultivating your donors within 60 days of giving? And last, are you upgrading and asking them to become a recurring donor within the first 90 days? All right, let's look at retention. Yes, retention is important. As I just said, 85% of your donors are going to retain in their first year. But that also tells us that 15% will attrit or churn. And so what I'd rather have us focus on than retention is actually attrition and churn. And the reason for this is that churn creates pain. Pain because we're losing donors, our most valuable donors. Pain because we aren't enabling donors to give to the causes that they believe in. And pain results in consequences like we aren't able to fulfill our mission. We aren't meeting our revenue goals. We aren't growing generosity. You see, consequences drive action. They increase our motivation to actually do something about it. Retention is a positive. We like to celebrate things, and that's good. But if we want to continue to improve and optimize, let's focus on churn so we actually do something about it. What do you think this number represents? A whole lot of money? It is a whole lot of money. In fact, this is the total revenue lost in 2003. Welcome to back in the future. All right. So the total revenue in 2023 due to recurring donors churning was $13 million, and that was just with 27 organizations. It actually represents 6% of their total revenue for 2023. So what are some things that we can do to implement to decrease churn? Obviously, increase retention. Well, a couple of things, and some of those even begin at the point of acquisition and upgrade. And that's even focused just on your payment method. Most of us are just accepting credit cards, which is good, but we know that 33 to 40% of all credit cards per year will expire, be replaced, and even be reported lost or stolen. So what about attaching it to their bank? Well, we've actually tested this a dozen times or so, and the results are consistent. There's no change in conversion. That's good news. Because if we're asking them to give either through credit card or ACH, we'd much rather have them in at ACH because they retain at such a higher rate, and their lifetime value is 85% greater. There's other ways to reduce churn in how we care and love our donors, like, caring for them, calling them. Consider sending like a newsletter, personal email. Send them something physical. I have an organization that I work with that actually sends a calendar that has just stories of impact. So each month, they're pulling it up and looking at the work, the impact that they are helping to accomplish. Target your recurring donors with ads that don't ask for money, just simply reinforce the message that the impact of that they're having. Invite them to personal events, private events, send postcards, really, really cheap. I have an organization who does a member drive. They gather their entire team in this huddle room. They've got all their cell phones and their list of donors, and that day they just call. They don't call to ask, they're calling to thank them, to love them, appreciate them. And what a cool team bonding, event for them as well. You can celebrate their milestones. And while all these things are really nice to do, nice things that we should probably implement into our programs, we're actually currently in the middle of a test right now where it's proving to be even more than just a nice to do, a nice to have. Take a look at this. For half of the file of our recurring program, we're sending one voicemail every month. That's it. It's just a voicemail to thank them, appreciate them. And the other half is not receiving anything. We're only 3 months into this test right now, but we're seeing a 9% lift in the likelihood of the people receiving the phone call to make an additional one-time gift. They also are seeing an increase in revenue by 36%. Why? Because we're just caring for them. They feel more committed. They trust you. They feel appreciated. You're satisfying their needs to be valued. So the framework is pretty easy. Acquisition, upgrade, retention. There's many different tips and tricks and tactics that you can do for all of these. But it doesn't have to be a big undertaking. It just doesn't. Start somewhere. It doesn't have to require big tech or strategy, resourcing, or money even to build these programs. The tactics, they're easy. That's why I think we've got a bigger problem. I think the problem is actually us. You see, if we're going to fully embrace this approach to be recurring donor focused, we need a radical mindset shift. This mindset shift needs to happen in 2 ways. Number one, it starts with how we prioritize our goals internally as nonprofits. We all have an annual budget. We're all accountable to that annual budget, and we're all pushing towards that annual budget. All of our resourcing and focus are focused on that annual budget. So essentially, what we're saying is we're defining success by short-term gains. What if we actually focus our organizations on how to maximize the lifetime value of our donors? Imagine. That should be your North Star. That should be your compass in which should drive all your decision making within your program. Because right now we're on just like this cycle, this repeating cycle. We try new things, we do new things, short wins as long as we meet our annual budget. But that is not sustainable. That is not going to grow generosity. So this mindset shift has to happen. And second is this. I think we have lost sight about what this is all about. If you look online today, all you hear about is the subscription economy. Listen, I love the subscription economy. I use groceries, clothing, you name it, I'm on it. In fact, the average American has about 5 subscriptions to their name. And while recurring giving is technically a subscription by the definition, because it provides regular revenue and it has the convenience factor for our donors, the problem with having the mentality and equating recurring giving with the subscription economy is that we start to focus our programs around that mentality. Meaning we organize all of our efforts to be about us. This is good for us, great for us. And we dismiss the very foundation for why people give. You see, our goal as marketers and fundraisers is to help and connect more people with the causes that they believe in. Because donors, we people, give to the things that are personal to us. I've got 2 boys, and they are incredible and adorable. One's a freshman in high school. The other one's a 5th grader. When they were little, I would take them to school, at preschool and early elementary, and I noticed something in their classrooms. I noticed that the classrooms didn't have any books that represented them and their identity as Black boys. So I started to gift the school every Christmas with books for the classrooms. Until I met this incredible organization called Young Black and Lit. They're out of Chicago. And they do that very thing. That is our sole purpose. So I became a recurring donor because it didn't sit right with me. I wanted to see change happen. I gave and I give every single month now so that children of color will have access to children's books that center, reflect, and affirm their experiences as Black children. Now, I'm not a recurring donor because it's convenient and cute. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, I'm not a recurring donor also because I really don't care about the sustainability of the organization from a donor's perspective, truly from a donor's perspective. I'm giving because it's personal to me. I give because I know my ongoing support is changing lives of kids like my own. So maybe people have a passion for, providing water, Brady, charity water, or preventing human trafficking, or maybe helping save the whales. Whatever the passion is, people are giving to the causes that align with who they are and the change they want to see. Friends, we don't need more tactics. We don't need more strategies. We don't need more platforms. We don't need more technology. We don't need more thought leaders to tell us what to do. We need a mindset shift if we want to truly discover the power of recurring giving. We've got to be brave enough and bold enough to step up, create change, set a new path forward for our industry, to create a new standard instead of this recyclable cycle that we're on. Have a bigger vision for what we're trying to do as an industry. Not because it's the best thing for us, because that's convenient, but because it's the best thing for our donors and to grow generosity. It's our job to help them. So let's build a barn. Let's come together as a community focused on this one goal of changing our industry, changing our mindsets, and build the best darn barn there is. Let's give the autonomy to our donors to say yes. Let's empower them so that they can make change in our world. Thank you.